please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Okay, folks, it's time for our DFS segment ahead of a very busy slate of action tonight. About 12 games on the docket, the way I look at it really quickly. And of course, some great matchups, including the second of the two tilts in Calgary with Toronto. And I guess your club is in tough tonight again. AJ with a trip to Boston. So that'll be the games where we're focused. But there are some other ones that are compelling in terms of interest. San Jose and Colorado and St. Louis and Vegas probably topping the list in terms of my interest. And I think I'll be tuning them in after the Leafs tune up the Flames tonight. How about that? So why don't you lead us through your picks for the Draftkings model, and then I'll rebound with a look in terms of what we'd have for FanDuel, AJ.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really I like to let kind of the odds makers help me build my lineup, and I like to pick lineups that have decent odds, because as I've said in the past, I think the odds makers in Vegas and New Jersey or wherever else, they know what they're talking about. They're not they get paid to do this, and so to that end, I looked at the goaltending matchups and the price and who was favorited. Obviously, the Avalanche, the big favorites tonight at -235. Stars are -205. But I didn't want to take the top goalie, both from a price standpoint and from a drafted percentage standpoint. I think those two guys are probably going to be the most likely. So I went a little bit further down, got Robin Leonard at 8,100. The fact that he's not the most expensive guy still gives me some flexibility. If for some reason Fleury gets the start tonight instead of Leonard, they've been splitting every other. I see no reason that he won't. I can flip on that. And they're -155 favorites against the Blues tonight. The Blues are a dangerous team, so it's definitely a bit of a riskier play. So I would guess that the drafted percentage is going to be down there. Additionally, I looked at something. If you go to the RotoWire sports betting page, you'll see we have implied scores. So I took a look at which teams have the highest implied goal totals for tonight based on odds. And you're talking about Predators, Oilers, Maple Leafs, and Avalanche here. So I started off and the Sabres as well. And I figured Buffalo probably maybe, again, a low drafted percentage group here. So I got Jack Eichel in at 7,600, Taylor Hall at 7,300, and then rounded that out with Sam Reinhart at 5,300, going full first line stack with them. Now, obviously, at this point, I can't use both the first line for Colorado and the first line for Buffalo. So as I mentioned in our main show, I really like the second line combination here for the Avalanche. They've got, again, a 3.8 implied goal total for tonight. They're heavy favorites against the Sharks. And so I went with all three guys here really cheap. Compher comes in at 2,900 on DraftKings. Brandon Saad is also 2,900. And then as my utility guy, Andre Burakovsky, 4,100. A little more pricey because he'll see minutes on the power play as well. Defensively, I needed to get in on Vegas somehow here. And so I went with Shea Theodore to the big price tag, $7,000 on DraftKings there. But obviously, with how much I saved on that Colorado second line, I had some dollars to spend. And then Zach Werenski for Columbus, 4,700. He's been consistently productive. I like his game. I probably tend to overuse him if I'm being totally honest. So that's my lineup. I did heavy, two-team stacks. So this is not a cash game. This is not a lineup you're going to want to necessarily take and stick in your 50-50s here or your double ups. This is a full-on GPP. If my guys hit, I'll be up top. If they don't, I'll be at the bottom. So that's what I did for DraftKings tonight. Paul, how does your lineup look over on FanDuel?
Well, I went a little bit different from my template. I went to look for value plays, and I wasn't too concerned about stacking anybody in this instance. So I'll be curious to see how this turns out. But in terms of name recognition, I think you're going to like my team, AJ. When I started out, I look at the Washington Capitals as a team that I think I can victimize by going to Brock Nelson at center. I think they're going to have a tough time dealing with him without their top players in the fold. $5,700 to me, very cheap for a guy who is a goal-scoring center as well. So I like my chances throwing him in the lineup, but I feel the same way about Willie Karlsson. We highlighted the fact that they have that top line intact, and he's been a consistent scorer for Vegas from the outset. And $5,200 cheap for me, considering they get last change. He's going to avoid the opposing top checkers more often than not with that circumstance, and get some specialty teams played as well. Gabe Blandis on the flank of Nate McKinnon against San Jose figures to me to be my most expensive winger tonight at $6,700. I plug him in, and I partner him with Blake Wheeler from the Winnipeg Jets in a game that should be predicated on high offense. I expect him to be central figure for Winnipeg. Again, with the last change, he'll avoid any checkers that the Oilers throw out. $6,700 his price tag. Then I went a little bit cheaper in terms of a couple of other players. On the defense, I was able to find two linchpins on the blue line. Anytime I can get guys like that for $5,000 or less, I'm on board. So Ivan Provorov for Philadelphia against New Jersey looks like he could be in for a productive night. And the same for Morgan Reilly, who's coming off a 3-assist effort in Calgary. I think he's got a chance to pad his stats again tonight in a game that should be a wide open affair in Cowtown. And further to that, I've got to look at a couple other wingers that I'm throwing into the mix. Matthew Cachook at $6,200. He figures to be a focal point of tonight's game. This guy plays best when he's at his emotional high, and he will be entering this contest. And I'll also pick another player from the Winnipeg Jets, in Nikolai Ehlers. I highlighted him in our main show where I talked about the wingers taking some of the spotlight away from their veteran centers with their productivity. Ehlers is another guy who fits that mold. At $6,100, I lock him in as my wild card offensive contributor. In the nets, I look no further than the Dallas Stars against the Detroit Red Wings. Anton Khudobin looked very good in his first two games, and the defensive structure of this team is going to be more than enough to hold Detroit at bay. I think this is an easy win for $8,100.